Thank you, David. Yeah. And good morning, beloveds.
Good morning.
And hello to those of you who are following us on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I love how Spirit works. It's a good thing I do because I'm kind of a trickster there, kind of a joker. And so this is the title of the talk today. Let's see. The power of tithing, of our talent, treasure, and time. And if you have your bulletins, that's not what it says in there. And it's so interesting because when I go to do the talks and I sit down and I talk with Spirit and I want to be inspired. That's the thing. I just, please inspire me. What is it I'm supposed to share? And I pull some books fell off out of my library, and I thought, oh great, this is some good stuff. I had a great time. Wrote it all up and started putting the PowerPoint together. And then I think David sent me an email and said, hey, what are your talks for the coming weeks? And so, look. And then I looked at the talk that was supposed to be this Sunday, and I thought, well, that's not the talk you had me write. No, it's the talk I want you to speak. So this is what we're talking about today, and maybe next week we'll do the one that was supposed to be this week. Who knows? We'll see what the Spirit has to say. But today, this is about the power of tithing. And this is about tithing your talents, your treasure, and your time. And the question is always, what's this about? Why tithe? And what does it actually mean to tithe? And why does it even matter? And tithing seems to be what I call a RTLB, a rule to live by, when you are in a fundamental church. And some rules to live by or commandments are easy for us to understand. We know what they mean. When you look at the 10 commandments, I call them the shout-nots. Some of the shout-nots are pretty obvious about why we shall not do them. Thou shalt not kill. That's pretty clear. One of the things that the 12 steps talks about in their 8th and 9th step is about making amends where you can, where to do so doesn't cause injury. Well, if you kill somebody, exactly how are you going to amend them? Yeah, it's not going to happen. So we're doing things that we don't have any ability to give life. Why would we take it? So not killing, that seems pretty obvious. Not stealing, that seems pretty clear. You don't want people taking from you, so we probably be a good idea to take something from someone else. Not a bad idea. Those are easy to understand. And there are some shout-nots that we don't quite readily understand. Thou shalt not bear false witness, which means don't lie. And it seems like people are lying all the time. I'm not going to get into the whole political arena. But it seems that people are lying all the time. And it doesn't feel like there's any harm being done, but we know that's not true. Because lies harm the liar and the lying. And it harms you because and I work with a lot of criminals, and this is what they do. They lie boldly to your face, even if you've seen what they've done. Because they have no thought for you. They don't think about you. You don't enter into their thoughts. And when you're lying to someone, what are you thinking about them? You have no care for them at all. It builds a distrust. If someone has lied to me or to you, are you willing to do anything else with them again? And it's very difficult to build the trust back up. So we understand that that's the reason why the bearing false witness. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That was an interesting one, because when I was raised as a Southern Baptist, what they always said and continue to say is that God is a jealous God. I'm sorry. That actually makes no sense to me. Jealous of what? There is only one. If there is only one presence and one power, what is there to be jealous of? The idea about having only one God is about confusion, just keeping the clarity down. You're looking at, you know where the source is. That's the reason for identifying that there is only one source. It's just to keep the clarity down for you. So the question comes again, what is tithing all about? What is this about exactly? Okay, so let me say this. Tithing is not about God. It's about you. It really is. Ultimately, when you tithe from the heart, It's because you know from a place of experience, not in your head, a place of experience in your heart, you know and you trust what source is and where your abundance comes from. It isn't from any place outside of you. All of your abundance comes from the one source in the universe. And tithing helps you get to that place of knowing. My mother, BJ, I talk about her a lot, she tithed religiously. And so because I was raised by her, I did the same thing. And I just simply thought it was just one of the, Christian foundations that it's a must-do for Christians. We did communion on the first. Every first Sunday, you did communion, unless you felt like you've been too sinful through the week, so you kind of don't do it. But if you felt like you were okay, you go ahead and do the communion. You always serve in the church. Whatever your talent is, that's one of the Christian must-dos. You tithe to the church. You give tithe to the church because apparently God is a bad money manager. And so we need to give God all of our money. So that's the reason, that's what I thought. And then also because if you don't, bad things happen. So it was fear-based. You tithe because if you don't, you are not a good Christian and you're going to hell. Essentially, that's what's going to happen. But I discovered, along with the shall nots, I discovered the it's nots. It's not these things. He knows that's not what he's looking for. He absolutely does not want to hit. Where's the meat? No. No. It's not that. So, what is it not? It's not about God. It's about you and your relationship with God. That's what tithing ends up ultimately being about. It's not a must-do. You don't have to do it. Why? As I said, God is the source of everything. All abundance, all money, everything comes from God. So God doesn't need, oh, you kidding? God doesn't need your money. God has all the money. God has everything on this universe. Everything comes from the source. So it's not about what you must do. It ends up being a want to do. And you want to do it when you know certain things. I had belonged to, it turns out that Ken and I belonged to the same company some years ago. We didn't realize we did, ACN, which was American Communications Network. And they had this whole book of information, a manual about the products that we had and and basically how your script and how you talk to people and things like that. And so people would always ask the leaders and the people that are doing really well, those of us who were new in, we would say, well, how long do we have to do this? How long do we have to read the manual? How many times do we have to do this? And they said you have to do it till you want to. You have to do it until you want to do it. It becomes a desire to do it. So you have to tithe. You don't have to do it. And we don't, here in New Thought, you don't have to do it. What we're talking about is getting to a place where you want to do it. So the question becomes, why would you want to? That's the case I'm making today. Why? What does that have to do with your relationship with God? Why would you want to? And this is not about a part of you. Tithing is not about a part of you. Just when you come to church, you just give to the church and you tithe. This is about your whole life. What you're beginning to understand when you know about tithing and when you're willing to do it, you desire to do it, it's about you opening up your generosity. We talked about this in our class this morning. When you talk about giving and receiving, you notice the first word is giving. It's not receiving and giving. It's giving and receiving. And when you begin to give, the whole thing opens up, and you give because you know you have it to give, and there's more where that came from. And the more you give, the more you get. There's no question in my mind that's how it works. And I'm going to read a Bible quote about it. But the more you give, so it's about learning to be generous. Giving and receiving is the same coin. It's two sides, like a yin and yang. It is two sides of the same coin. And it starts with giving. And so if anything happens for today, what I'd like for you to do, what I'd like to take away for you to do, to know, what I'm asking you to do is to go from thinking about tithing as something you have to do to having it established in your heart and your mind that it's something you want to do. And only when you are wanting to do it, does it work. Here's my point, is if this is true, then God doesn't need or want our tithes. If this is true, and do we believe that this is true?
Yes.
This is true. And if this is true, God doesn't need our money, doesn't need anything from us. It's about us wanting God to be closer. It's about us knowing the source of everything and having that relationship with abundance and generosity and love and life. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. It is about you in relationship with God. I want to read this to you from the Science of Mind manual. On page 151, for those of you who have this book, it says, the secret of spiritual power lies in a consciousness of one's union with the whole, with Source, and of the availability of good. One more time. The secret of spiritual power, the power we have in our spirit, in our lives, lies in a consciousness, our individual consciousness of our union with the whole. Okay? And of the availability of good. That is the secret of our spiritual power. It goes on to say, on page 432, as God cares for the birds who do not gather into barns, so shall we be cared for if we trust and do not doubt. But we are to seek the kingdom first. This is why I'm always talking about your relationship. When I talk about seeking the kingdom of God, it's about seeking your relationship. There's no place out there. God is within us. And seeking the kingdom of God is about seeking your relationship with God. So again, as God cares for the birds who do not gather into the barns, so shall we be cared for if we trust and do not doubt. But we are to seek the kingdom of God first. So let us have a relationship with God. So my question becomes, how do we, because I'm talking about believers, how do we know who to trust? In our lives, we have people that my sister calls ride or dies. These are the people that, for example, and this is her example, and I love it. If I'm upset with, well, my first husband, he was kind of a jerk.
Well.
Yeah, truth is truth, right? Trust to the guy. And she says, my sister says, so what do you need? Have you shot him? Do you need me to help you hide the body? This is a ride or die, okay? This is a person who has your back no matter what you do. This is a mother, right? A mother's your ride or die. Whatever you do, your mother's got your back. So who do you trust? How do you know who to trust someone? I have a friend named Kim. I'm going to use her real name. When I was over in Thailand, my sister died unexpectedly. I've told you guys this story. And it was a shock to all of us that I was way over there in Thailand. And so I had time to get back so I could go to her funeral. And it was just such a shock. And I was just in mourning and just crying. And I found out later, I did not know at the time that this happened when I got the phone call, but later, my girlfriend was sitting outside my house. I have a fence around my house, and she was just sitting there on the street, just sitting there waiting in case I called her. She didn't want to take time to get there. If I needed her, she wanted to be right there, right then. So she just sat. I never called her because I just was crying, and I just never called her. And I was talking to my husband, but my husband told me later she'd been sitting out there the whole time, waiting for me to call her. And I never called her. She never said anything about it. She was just waiting if I needed her. This is a ride or die. This is someone you can trust. So who do you trust? So being in relationship with anyone is about the desire of your heart. It's a want to. I'm in relation. Is anybody in here in a relationship with someone they don't want to be with? They don't want to be in? Because if you find yourself in relationship with someone you don't want to be in, what happens? You're looking for a way out. No one wants to be where they don't want to be. I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be in one with me. Why would God want to be in a relationship with you if you don't want to be in one with him? Or her, or whatever you call him. No, I call him George. So George and I are in a relationship because I want to be. The world goes on whether I'm in a relationship with God or not. My life is better when I'm in a relationship. Your life is better when you're in a relationship. Again, it's about you. So we begin to build this relationship and this want to about being with God in a relationship. So the question becomes, do you want to be in a relationship with God? Only you can answer that question. There is no guilt. There's no negatives here. Whatever you want to do, you can come here and just enjoy the wonderful love which we spread here all the time, the great music. You can do what you want to. For me, the value of being around a like-minded tribe is to make your life better. And your life is going to get better. Believe me when I tell you, and ask anyone who's in relationship with God, ask Glenn, ask Matt, ask Rebecca, ask David, ask anyone, Terry, anyone here who we know is in relationship with God, ask them how much better their life is because they are in relationship with God. So you have to ask yourself, what brings you here and whether or not you want to be in a relationship. So I want to talk a little bit about faith and tithing. Tithing is about your perception and your history. What is possible? What do you believe is possible? What do you think you can have? What do you think you can receive? When we read the book A Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, there was so much reason for him to lose hope. Much reason. His family died, everything that he loved. But he never lost hope. Because he has an experience in a relationship which allowed him to believe no matter what the circumstances are. And I'm not saying that everybody died in those places because they didn't have faith. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying his faith got him through. That's all. And even if you have faith, you still have bad days. It's not going to say that you're going to have all great days. I'm talking about having a peace, knowing that no matter what you're going through, there is something greater than yourself that is there with you. So, tithing is about perception and history. I had a dream, and I think I shared this with you guys before, but I haven't shared it often. And it was so vivid. It was a big football field, and it was at night. Dark, a whole crowd of people. And there was something coming from the sky, like a spaceship, but it ended up being, when it finally landed, it was like a Fabergé egg. Just beautiful, beautiful color, just jewels all over it. And when it landed, it was all lit. And when it landed, it hovered just above everyone that was out there. It opened up, and presents, just like a spring, like a fountain, just presents, just started shooting out of the Fabergé egg. And people were just reaching and taking the gifts, just taking them. And I was there and just had gifts just stacked up. I mean, I was just stacking up. The lady next to me was just taking, one, and she took it, and she looked over at me and she said, "You're taking too much. There's not going to be enough for everyone if you take all those gifts." And I just looked at her and I said, "That's not my truth. The truth is, this thing is flowing and flowing and flowing, and you take what you feel you deserve. Take what you want. This is up to you. This is a message I know." I actually bought a little, an ornament that reminded me of that egg, and it's hanging in my house. So that I always know. That was a dream to me about the abundance of the universe. And we can have what we believe we can have. If you think there's not enough, there's not enough. If you think you're taking too much, you're taking too much. But the truth is, there's no such thing. Whatever limitation is in your life is the limitations you're having. It's not the limitation of God, the limitation of source, or the limitation of what's possible. So when we look at tithing, the reason I'm talking about our history, we get to look back at our history and say, how has it been? Have we gotten what we wanted? And we can change our future. If our history isn't what we wanted it to be, we can change how we look at it. We know the truth now, right? We know the truth now. The universe is abundant. We can have what we want. We just open up our hearts and say yes. It's all about yes. Doesn't matter what people around you say. That's their truth. What's yours? What's yours? And it begins with a relationship with God and knowing where the source of all your joy is. So again, I ask the question, is this true or not? If there's only one presence and one power in the universe, if this is true, we live fearlessly. We know where everything comes from. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, what anybody else is saying. It's about you and your life and what you can accept and what you know. So what happens to me is that, and I want to talk about just one more story. I want to tell you about this group. It was called the YAC, the Youth Action Committee. And it was a group of, I think they started at 13 to 18. And there was a group of kids that I worked with when I was in Waco. And it started because the YAC was already there. But I ran this one because I was so moved when I understood, I read this article and after combining so many things, that one of the reasons why young people commit suicide is because they don't think they matter. That if they die, no one will miss them. And so the reason, so my vision for this group was to show young people that they matter. And the way to do that was to show them what they could do in the community, their effect in the community. So what we did was we went out and we started having fundraisers. We baked pies and cakes around the holidays. And we went to Walmart, and Walmart was very generous with all the things they allowed us to do, and they raised a lot of money. And then they picked a group of kids, young kids, that they wanted to give Christmas presents to. They found the kids, each one of them had a name of the kid they were going to give the Christmas present to. They went shopping, bought the presents, they talked to the kids, and that's what they wanted, went shopping, bought the gifts, wrapped the gifts, and took the gifts to the kids. They were so joyous about the look on the kids' faces when they gave them their gifts. I was joyous, the look on my kids' faces as they were giving the gifts. They were so amazed at what they could do and the power of giving to someone else. So I know firsthand the power of giving and receiving and why it starts with giving. Why the power of giving and receiving starts with giving. It's powerful. So do whatever you need to do. But giving and receiving, again, is two sides of the same coin. Matthew 6:20 and 21 says this: store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Heaven being within us. It's not someplace out there, heaven within us. So store up yourselves treasures in heaven. And when we think about treasures, it's about our core values, what we believe. We believe in love, we believe in all, whatever your core values. We've talked about that many times, but I'll talk about it many times again. But we store up those treasures because for where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. Where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. So store up in your heart, in your heaven, the things that matter to you. The things that matter to you. What you do not sow cannot grow. The universal law of focus says that what you focus on grows. And we talked about this in our meeting this morning. I talk about it all the time. If you want abundance, you want a great life, it begins with you seeing that. It begins with you having a relationship with God and believing and knowing the source of all your good is always within you because God, the Creator, is within you. You are I am. And you can create whatever you want. So focus on the truth. What I want you to know about tithing, what happens when you do tithe. This is what happens, 3 things. It releases our faith in the faithfulness of God. Giving is an act of faith. It actually is. When we believe in God and His Word, we are free to give and receive. Here's what it says. Philippians 4:19 says, God will keep His word and meet our every need in accordance with His riches and glory that He has promised. He will take care of everything you need. He abounds in a glory that pours out into eternity. So when you give, and I don't know if I wrote this one down, but I hope I did. I want to come back to it. But what God says is this. Whatever He promises, God will keep His word and meet our every need in accordance with His riches and in His glory. You give, and I will pour out unto you riches you cannot imagine. Test me in this. God actually asked you to test this. This is not something Jesus has never asked you to take it on faith. He's always talked to His disciples. When the disciples had asked questions, and they said, how does this work? How does this work? How does this work? And He always told them how it worked. God asks you to test Him. He doesn't ask you to take His word for it, although you can. But test it. See what happens if you give. You don't give so that you can receive. You simply give, and then you receive. Do you understand the difference? Do you understand the difference? Okay. So, the next result of tithing is that it establishes God's covenant in our lives. You know what a covenant is? It's an agreement. A covenant is an agreement. We have an agreement to be here every Sunday. It's a promise. God promises that we can give of our tithes and offerings, and he will open to us the windows of heaven and pour out such an abundant blessing that we will not be able to contain it. That is the promise that God has made for us. And finally, it releases the power of God in our hearts and our minds. God says, test me in this and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour into you so much blessing that you will not have room enough for it. That comes from Malachi 3 and 10. So, tithing is a way for you, the end result is about you knowing who God is to you. We don't have to give. We don't give to get. We get to give. You don't give money so you can get money. You get to give it. Because you know there's no way you can give it away. You can't. Because God is always your abundant supply. And that's what tithing does. And when you know that, you're looking for ways in which you can give money. And do you know how good it feels to give? I know all of you do because all of you in here are givers. It feels so good to give. We're going to talk the other day. We're going to also talk about what it's like to receive, because it is a blessing to the giver. It's also a blessing to the receiver. So not only do we have to learn how to give, we do have to learn how to receive. It's actually more difficult. People don't think that, but it's actually more difficult to receive than it is to give, because you have to say to someone, "Okay, yes, I'll take that." It's difficult. It's kind of an ego thing. You want to be the giver all the time, but you have to also be the receiver, because that's what it's a give and receive thing. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But anyway, so the walkaways is we don't give to get, we get to give. When Pat and Glenn, myself and Jason, we were in Waco ministers. I think you were the minister at that time when Vicki died, and we went to. She was a member of the congregation, and they were from Jersey. Her and her husband were from Jersey, so they flew back to Jersey for the funeral. And so Glenn came. My husband and I went first out to Sam and Vicki. So we went out to Jersey to help with that, and Glenn came later. So when we got there, oh my stars, these people, they're in the middle of grieving, and the wife and their mother had died, and they would not let us do anything. They got the hotel for us. They gave us a Mercedes to drive. They wouldn't let us bring any food. They wouldn't let us do anything. They just kept giving and giving and giving. So they gave us the Mercedes, and they asked us to go pick up Glenn at the airport when he came in. So we went and we picked Glenn up. And he said he was hungry. He wanted to have lunch. I don't know if you remember this or not. He wanted to go have lunch, so we stopped at a hamburger place to get him lunch. And he went to go pull his wallet out. And both Jason and I go, "No, you don't. We get to give. It's our turn." No, you don't. They're so abundant, living around people who get that. It's a fight to see who's going to get it, because we know there's more where that came from. That's what life is like. There's more where that came from. So tithing is what you do in relationship with God when you know what the source is. It's a want to. It's a desire to give. And it is about divine flow in your entire life. I hope that this makes sense to you and that you're wanting to have a relationship